David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today I have for you a new release from Montegrappa celebrating all that is James Bond, which recently celebrated its 60th anniversary. The pen is called the 007 Special Issue. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of this interestingly themed pen, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to the good folks at Montegrappa for providing this pen on loan for review. Now, you might have recently seen a different version of this pen. Montegrappa came out with a higher-end model called the 007 Spymaster Duo, which was a limited edition and retails for around $5,000. That pen has some very cool features. It arrives in a neat briefcase. In the back of the pen is stored a pair of cufflinks. That's something I would have never thought would be implemented into a pen. And the filling mechanism for this pen is extremely unique. You have these bullets which are filled with ink from this reservoir. While I think it's a pretty cool concept, it doesn't seem like it would have that high of an ink capacity. I will give them points for being different and creative though. But the model I have for you today is their open edition, as I mentioned previously, called the 007 Special Issue. The pen arrives in this black box. It has the stylized M of Montegrappa logo debossed on top sleeve. Then inside, there is a box. This one has the Montegrappa M as well as the James Bond 007 logo. And then inside here, we have something else. Let me go ahead and get this out. We have this debossed leatherette zip case. The outside is very soft. I saw two different retailers describe this as embossed. Now, I know this is a very minor thing, but this is actually debossed. Embossed is when the pattern or lettering is raised from a surface. Debossed is when it's sunken into the surface. Don't even get me started at this point about when someone calls a lectern a podium. This case unzips, and inside we have a few things. There is a little pocket notepad. Beneath that, there is this elastic loop where you can hold a couple of ink cartridges, two of which are provided. Now, there wasn't any documentation which arrived with this pen. There is a single page in the notebook, which is covered with the names of all of the Bond films. Inside there, there is a QR code to register your pen for warranty purposes. But that was it in regard to documentation. For the price of this pen, I thought it would have been nice to include a little booklet with some pictures or information dedicated to the James Bond franchise. But then again, maybe Montegrappa's licensing agreement only allows them to use the name and logo and not pictures from the film franchise. On the company website, they only have a single picture from Sean Connery's version of Casino Royale. It's not the biggest thing, but it would have been nice, especially for the fans of the series who would be purchasing this pen. Speaking of licensing, in case you were wondering, I did correctly license the James Bond theme song you heard at the top of this review. How could I just do this review without the music? Just a reminder, kids, stealing other people's content is not cool. Videos or even music. Bond would not approve of that. If you didn't create it or get permission from the creator to use it, then don't steal it. Unless it's fair use, which is an entirely different conversation. Then, on the other side here, we have the pen. It comes in this little felt pouch. And this is what the pen looks like. This is the Montegrappa 007 Special Issue. The pen is made in Italy. The James Bond's books were written by Ian Fleming. When he was writing the book, he wanted his lead character to have a plain, simple name. He originally planned on him being an extremely dull and uninteresting man who things just happened to. Fleming took the name of his character from that of an American ornithologist by the name of James Bond. Fleming was an avid birdwatcher himself, and he was familiar with Bond's book, Birds of the West Indies, and he felt that James Bond was the dullest name he had ever heard of. In one of his films, Die Another Day, there is a scene where Pierce Brosnan picks up a copy of Bond's Bird Book and poses as an ornithologist, as an homage to his namesake. It's kind of funny that they scratched out the name of the author on the cover. It might have been confusing to some folks if they saw the name and didn't understand the reference. The pen is made from metal, aluminum, and brass. The exterior has been sandblasted, and the pen takes inspiration from the world of James Bond. The aluminum has been oxidized, which is a process which kind of creates a protective layer over the aluminum and helps prevent any deterioration of the metal. The majority of the features of this pen are inspired by a pistol. Now, the pistol which is most associated with James Bond is the Walther PPK, which is a rather small gun. Fleming didn't want to use a gun which was too bulky and cumbersome for his nimble spy. So he picked one which was known for its small and sleek appearance, but also famous for its accuracy and precision. Let's start by taking a look at the part of this pen which I felt was extremely unique, which was the top of the cap. As you can see here from the side view, there is a hole. That's because the top of the cap contains something special, which is a tribute to a sequence seen in every Bond film. Every Bond movie has a gun barrel sequence where he walks into frame, inside a circle, and then fires a bullet toward the camera. And then blood makes its way down the screen. Here are some examples from a few different films. Traditionally, at the beginning of each film, there is the gun barrel scene, then there's an action-packed prologue, and then there's the opening credits. There have been a couple of recent films like Quantum of Solace and Skyfall, which have had the gun barrel at the end of the film. The rifled alloy insert is a bit tough to see here. In order to get a close enough look at it and take a picture, the camera reflects in the metal, making it more difficult to see. Here is a picture from Montegrappa showing what it looks like. This is a better picture. I'll give them credit. This is one of the more unique and creative elements I've seen in a fountain pen in a very long time. Now, in regard to the rest of the pen, most of it relates to different parts of the Walther PPK. We have the grooved clip. I think it looks pretty sharp. It is hinged, but that tension is rather strong. It can be rather challenging to insert this clip on materials without pinching the clip to separate it a bit from the cap. The cap itself does resemble the barrel of a pistol, with its rounded top and squared off sides. On either side, near the end of the cap, is an area of knurling. I find this helpful because it's where I personally naturally grip the pen when uncapping. So having that knurling there serves practical purpose, but also provides an interesting tactile element to the pen as well. At the end of the cap, it is engraved with the Montegrappa name. There is then a medium-sized step down from the cap to the barrel. Beneath that transition, the barrel is engraved with the 007 logo. The engraving is high quality. The company calls this their shadow logo. And I like the black on black. It causes the logo to essentially hide in plain sight. In regard to the 007 moniker, in the world of Bond, 007, or actually 00, is a field agent who holds a license to kill at their discretion during field operations. And in the books, there's very little talk of any other 00 agents. Other agents show up a bit more in the films, but it's believed that he was the 7th, hence the name. The barrel tapers down only slightly, and for the majority of the length, it's covered by another area of knurling. I've always liked knurling on metal pens, so this barrel certainly works for me. At the end of the barrel, it tapers down slightly, and the very end is adorned by the Montegrappa logo. Now, a number of retailers describe this pen as having a brass blind cap, but I don't find that to be the case. A blind cap is a small removable end to the barrel. In the case of the Parker Vacuumatic, you would remove it in order to access the pump used in filling the pen. Or if you have a Leonardo Momento Zero, most of those have a blind cap you can remove to access the converter. I mentioned errors by retailers earlier, but enough retailers have the same wording in their description, which would lead me to believe that this came from the manufacturer. Again, not the biggest issue in the world, but something odd. since multiple retailers describe the pen as having a feature that it doesn't have. The cap twists off with 1.5 rotations, and underneath we have a number 6 14-karat gold nib. The nib is engraved with the 007 logo as well as Montegrappa. It is available in extra fine, fine, medium, broad, and also a stub. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section on this pen simply angles up. It does have a minuscule curve to it, but I wouldn't describe it as overly concave. There is no flare on the end, and then it transitions into the metal threads and the remainder of the barrel. The section is a bit on the short side. I wish it was slightly longer. With it being rather short, I do find my grip spilling over to the threads. While I don't find them to be sharp, I'd prefer them to be a bit further back so they aren't as much of an active participant in my grip. I don't mind the knurling rubbing against my hand. I don't find the knurling to feel sharp. I'm exaggerating it here, but when you write, the barrel moves slightly up and down in your hand, and if that knurling was sharp, it'll almost act like a sawing into the vulnerable part of your hand. So I'm glad that it doesn't do that. This pen is plenty long enough to use unposted. That's a good thing, because while you can kind of get this cap to post, I don't feel it was designed to do so, so this pen is best used unposted. This is a cartridge converter pen. It comes with two standard international cartridges, and a converter is provided. I thought it was interesting because I have a number of Montegrappa pens in my collection, and this is the first to have the little metal agitator in the converter. They must have somewhat recently added that feature. The Montegrappa 007 special issue can be found at a large number of retailers and has an MSRP of $12.95. The majority of retailers have this at a 10% discount, which brings the price down to $11.65. It's also available as a rollerball at a lower price. If you are a fan of the James Bond world, then this is a pretty neat offering. There are some things I really like about it. I like that the pen has a theme with many elements, but it isn't an overt theme. It isn't an in-your-face implementation of that theme. While I do enjoy Bond films, I'm not really a gun person, so the subtleness of the design makes this pen more attractive to me. Bond might be disappointed in me as well, but I'm not really a martini guy either shaken or stirred. I'm more of a bottle of Corona with a lime kind of guy. And again, I think the end of the cap is very, very cool. Again, props to whomever at Montegrappa thought of that. They should get Employee of the Month for that idea. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Montegrappa 007 special issue. I just wanted to give you another closer look. I do like the groove on the clip there. And you can see here that this really does look like the barrel of a gun. This almost looks like the sight. Now, let's see if we can get a good look at down the barrel here. Now, see, you really don't get that reflective look just because you kind of see the camera in there, but you can see a bit. Let's see, do it at an angle. Yeah, you can kind of get a better look at it at an angle. There you go. You can get a better look at it there and there. But it is a really cool feature. And the nice knurling here as well. And in regard to those size comparisons, with a couple of other Montegrappas, this is what it looks like with a Montegrappa. And then this is with a Mio, which is the Adriatic Sea. And then here it is with a Venetia. In regard to one more Montegrappa pen, this is what it looks like with the Elmo Chrysiocolla. And then for a couple of non-Montegrappa pens, this is a Pelikan M805. And then finally a Sailor King of Pen Sky. Actually, King of Pen Pro Gear Sky. In regard to uncapped comparisons, here it is with that Sailor King of Pen Pro Gear Sky and the Pelikan M805, and then finally the Montegrappa Venetia. So here we have the writing sample for the Montegrappa. And this is the 007 special issue. This is a 14 karat gold medium nib. And the ink I'm using today is Diamine Red Dragon. Well, why Red Dragon? At first, it was because I thought the name sounded like a James Bond villain from like the 60s or 70s. You know, like he had to conspire to stop Red Dragon from some international conspiracy. But then I actually saw that the name was used in one of the films. In the movie Thunderball, Sean Connery has a scene where he's talking on the phone with someone after he saw someone's tattoo, and he says, "Yes, I think it's a Tong sign, the red dragon from Macau." So it ended up being appropriate because Red Dragon was actually used in the film, or at least the term was. This is what the ink looks like. It's kind of a darker, almost blood red. This is what it looks like in regard to Visconti red, as well as Leonardo's Red Passion. In regard to the rest of the writing sample, this 14 karat gold nib is very nice. That I find it to be fairly smooth with just a touch of feedback. It did railroad just a little bit there. But in regard to ink flow, it's decent for a medium pen. And then in regard to some reverse writing, it is a little sharp, but then in regard to some fast writing, the feed had no issue in keeping up. So there we have the Montegrappa 007 special issue. I think this is an interesting pen with some interesting features. And like I mentioned before, I like the fact that the theme isn't especially overt, and I just love the end of the cap here. So thanks again go out to Montegrappa for the loan of this pen. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.